Hello everyone. I'm so happy to see you all back on my channel. Today, we'll continue following the emotional story of LyTuDiep and James, a couple who has gone through countless storms and losses, yet still hold each other's hands and keep moving forward. In this episode, new challenges suddenly arise. Will their love and faith be strong enough to help them overcome it all? Stay with me until the end of the video to find out. And don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment to cheer for Diep and James on their journey full of challenges. A clear, peaceful morning dawned on the little farm. The first sunlight slipped through the grapefruit branches, casting soft golden streaks across the porch. The scent of freshly cut grass blended with the warm aroma of milk, filling the air with a quiet sense of calm. Inside the small kitchen, LyTuDiep gently tied up her hair, carrying a steaming bowl of noodles to the table. Across the room, little Nie sat cross-legged on the floor, her rosy cheeks glowing as she carefully colored a picture titled "Happy Family," something she had just learned to draw at school. "Look, Miss Diep. I made Uncle James wear a blue shirt." Nie chirped excitedly. Diep smiled softly, her voice tender. "Yes, that really looks like him. Uncle James does love blue." But when Nie asked, "Miss Diep, why didn't Uncle come to play with me today?" Diep's smile froze for a moment. She glanced toward the door, where sunlight still shimmered across the yard, and replied gently, "He's probably busy with work, dear. Let me give him a call." The phone rang in the quiet little house, once, twice, then silence. She tried again. And again. Only the cold, mechanical voice answered. "The number you have dialed is currently unreachable." Diep stood still, a faint worry flickering in her eyes. She let out a quiet sigh, hiding her unease behind a gentle smile. "Maybe his phone's out of battery, sweetheart. I'll try again later, okay?" The girl nodded and went back to her coloring. Meanwhile, Diep returned to the kitchen, the soft clink of a spoon against the pot echoing through the still air. A light breeze drifted through the window, stirring the white curtain. And somewhere deep inside her, a quiet premonition began to stir. Afternoon slowly descended, laying a soft golden light across the garden rows. A gentle breeze swept through, carrying the scent of damp earth mixed with tender grass and the faint fragrance of grapefruit blossoms. Tiny specks of dust rose as LyTuDiep's shovel sank deep into the soil, the crisp sound blending with the cheerful chirping of sparrows perched on the bamboo fence. "We have to fence this carefully, or the chickens will dig everything up again," she said half-jokingly, her hand swiftly driving bamboo stakes into the ground around the newly turned vegetable bed. The conical hat on her head tilted slightly as a bead of sweat rolled down her rosy cheek, catching the soft glow of the afternoon sun. Behind her, little Nie trotted along, her tiny feet pressing into the soft soil, leaving a line of perfect little footprints. "Miss Diep. Let me help. I'm really good at planting." Diep turned back and laughed gently. "All right, but remember to plant them in straight rows, okay? Otherwise, when the veggies grow crooked, Uncle James will laugh at us." Nie giggled gleefully, her small hands moving quickly to press each sprout into the ground. Mud smeared across her cheeks and shirt, but she didn't mind, her clear, bright eyes sparkled with the joy of being part of something grown up. Their laughter echoed through the garden, reaching even the grapefruit grove James had bought the year before. That grove now shimmered with lush green leaves and round, swelling fruits, silvered by the evening light that rustled through with every passing breeze. Farther away, the hillside glowed under the setting sun, warm and tranquil, like a painted dream. Diep paused, leaning on her shovel, narrowing her eyes against the sunlight. She looked long toward the distant hill, where the boundary of the land was still not entirely marked. "I wonder if James bought the whole area, or just up to halfway on that slope," she murmured, almost to herself. Nee paid no attention, busy playing with water near the watering can. Diep sighed softly, pulled her phone from her pocket, wiped away the dust, and dialed. Once, twice. Then the same cold, familiar voice returned. The number you have dialed is currently unreachable. That sound pierced the quiet afternoon, oddly chilling in its calm. She gripped the phone tightly, her lips pressed together, then forced a faint smile, gentle but strained. He must be buried in work again, she whispered. She lifted her gaze toward the horizon, where the last traces of sunlight were fading. The curtain at the front door fluttered in the breeze, casting soft, flickering shadows across her shirt. A vague feeling crept into her heart, part longing, part worry, as though something, somewhere far away, was quietly beginning to change. Little Nee tugged at her sleeve. "Miss Diep, will Uncle James come home tonight?" Diep bent down, smoothing the child's messy hair, her eyes tender. "I'm sure he will, sweetheart. He's just a bit busy. He'll be back soon, and he'll bring you a gift, just like always. I want grapefruit candy." Nee chirped, her voice clear and light as it melted into the breeze. Diep smiled, but her eyes drifted toward the fading sky, where the first gray clouds of evening were gathering, slowly swallowing the last golden light of the day. That noon, golden sunlight poured over the entire grapefruit garden. The lush green leaves shimmered under the bright sky, sparkling with the last drops of morning dew. Cicadas buzzed on the branches, blending with the cheerful laughter of Diep and little Nee, who were busily picking ripe fruit. "Be careful, sweetie. Don't stand under the big trees. If one of these falls, it'll really hurt," Diep said, raising the long fruit pole skillfully, twisting it just right so the grapefruit dropped gently into her palm. She handed the golden yellow fruit to Nee with a bright smile. "These grapefruits are amazing, so juicy and sweet." Nee peeled a segment eagerly, the glistening juice running down her little fingers. "Miss Diep, it's so good. Sweeter than candy," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling under the sun. Diep chuckled, dabbing the sweat from the child's forehead with a handkerchief, then looked out over the vast orchard, rows upon rows of trees James had once planted, standing tall and heavy with fruit, a living testament to all their hard work and love. After a while, the two loaded baskets full of golden grapefruits onto a small cart and headed toward the village market. The dirt road was bumpy, but filled with laughter. The faint scent of grapefruit mingled with the aroma of sun-dried straw, creating a warmth that felt deeply peaceful. At the market, Diep parked the cart under an old awning and arranged the fruits neatly on a bamboo tray. Her cheerful voice rang out across the stalls. "Sweet grapefruits here. Only 15,000 each, try one, they're fragrant and juicy." Shoppers stopped by, some buying, some admiring. "These are so juicy and not bitter at all, real country grapefruits," someone said. Nee quickly packed the fruit into bags, bowing and thanking each customer with flushed cheeks, glowing with joy and sunshine. "Thank you, miss. Hope you enjoy it," she chirped. An elderly woman passing by smiled warmly at the girl. "What a sweet child. I bet she'll be as clever and kind as her mother one day." Diep smiled softly and replied, "She's not my real daughter, but she's as good as one. I love her like my own." The old woman nodded and walked away, leaving behind a quiet, tender peace. The midday light gleamed on the golden grapefruits, making the small stall shine like treasure. A soft breeze carried their fragrance through the market, mingling with the sounds of chatter, bicycle bells, and laughter, creating a simple, lively, heartwarming village scene. In the middle of it all, Diep lifted her gaze toward the distant road leading to the city. She tightened her grip on her phone, still no message from James. But she didn't call this time. She simply smiled faintly, her eyes far away. "James? "I wonder if you've had lunch yet," she whispered. The breeze brushed past, lifting a few strands of hair from her cheek. And somewhere in that golden afternoon light, her quiet longing grew deeper, gentle and fragrant. Like the scent of grapefruit drifting softly through the countryside. By late afternoon, the sunlight had softened into a warm golden hue. Diep and Diep pushed their empty cart along the bamboo-shaded village road. Only a few leftover grapefruits rolled gently in the cart, squeaking in rhythm with the wooden wheels. The breeze carried the faint scent of burnt straw, that familiar, comforting fragrance of the countryside. "Miss Diep, we sold so many today," Nee cheered, holding up a small cloth pouch of money, her eyes sparkling with pride. Diep smiled, patting her head affectionately. "Yes, it's all thanks to your help. You were amazing today." They stopped by a small clothing shop near the market, a humble place lined with wool sweaters, scarves, and colorful knitted hats. Sunlight filtered through a thin curtain, scattering golden streaks across the tiled floor. Looking around, Diep said softly, "I want to buy a warm sweater for Grandma when winter's coming soon, and her joints always ache when it's cold." Nee nodded eagerly and began helping her pick. The little girl darted between the racks, lifting and lowering each sweater, murmuring to herself, "This one's pretty, but maybe too small for Grandma. Oh, this red one is perfect for her." Diep laughed, her eyes filled with warmth. "You've got such good taste, sweetheart." She handed the sweater to the shopkeeper and said gently, "Could you wrap this one nicely, please? It's for an elderly woman, maybe add an extra plastic cover so it won't get wet in the rain." At the counter, Diep's gaze suddenly caught on a small pink dress, simple but lovely. She turned to Nee. "How about this one for you? Christmas is coming, you can wear it when we go out together." But the girl shook her head, clutching the hem of Diep's shirt. "No, Miss Diep. You don't have much money left. I only need one dress." Her voice was small but firm, and her clear eyes carried a quiet sincerity that tugged at Diep's heart. For a moment, Diep froze. Inside that tiny shop, the chatter and footsteps faded away. A lump rose in her throat as she knelt down and wrapped the little girl in her arms, her hand trembling slightly as she stroked Nee's soft hair. "It's okay, my dear. One day, I'll buy you lots and lots of pretty clothes, alright?" Nee smiled and looked up. "I don't need a lot. I just need you, Miss Diep." The innocent words brought tears to Diep's eyes. She turned away, pretending to adjust the shopping bag, hiding the glimmer in her gaze. Outside, the sunset spread a gentle golden glow across the quiet street. From afar, the sound of temple bells drifted through the evening air, deep, calm, and soothing. The two walked home, their shadows stretching long along the dusty road. Ahead stood the small house nestled in the grapefruit garden, still carrying that familiar sweet fragrance. And within it, they waited, for the one who had yet to return. Late afternoon. The red dirt road wound its way up the hillside, where the wind rustled through rows of trees, whispering stories of time gone by. The car stopped at the edge of the forest. James stepped out, carrying only a small backpack and a phone with no signal. He wanted to leave everything behind, the contracts, the meetings, the calculating stares. Before him stretched a vast wilderness. Rolling hills fading into the horizon, a small stream winding through the valley, the air heavy with the scent of wild grass. No car horns. No neon lights. Only the sound of the wind, and his own heartbeat. He followed the stream, stopping beside a large rock. The evening light reflected off the rippling water in streaks of orange and red. James sat down, staring quietly at the trembling surface, where his own face appeared, weary, lonely, yet still holding a faint spark of determination. His voice broke the silence, low and hoarse, as though he was speaking not just to himself, but to the wind, to the heavens. Since I was young, Father always said money and status define a man's worth. That is an error. I could never love a poor girl. He gave a bitter smile. Scooping a handful of cool stream water, he let it slip slowly through his fingers. But Diep, with her rough hands and gentle smile, she taught me what true happiness really is. With her, I can be myself, no titles, no wealth. He lifted his gaze to the pale sky, where clouds drifted lazily. A flock of birds soared past, cutting through the air in a V formation. All these years, I've lived in the mold Father built for me. I lost my freedom, and the woman I love. He can take back the company, strip away everything. But he must never lay a hand on them, on Diep and little knee. The wind grew stronger, sweeping through his hair and scattering a small photo he pulled from his wallet. A faded picture of the three of them standing in the grapefruit garden. He picked it up, brushed it gently, and held it tight in his hand. I'd rather start over from nothing than keep living in that gilded cage. James stood up, facing the mountains now bathed in the last light of dusk. The wind stirred, the grass swayed, and the sun melted into the sea of clouds. His eyes glowed, no longer trembling, but filled with the resolve of a man who had chosen his own path. I will protect them, with everything I have. Even if it means standing against the whole world. His gaze drifted into the distance, into the years gone by. Back then, he and LyTuDiep came from two different worlds. He, the son of a powerful corporation. She, a poor girl, orphaned and surviving through hard labor on a farm. Yet it was in that meeting, between soil and sunlight, that his heart began to change. He remembered vividly the day Diep collapsed in the grapefruit field, working herself to exhaustion. He carried her down the long hill, heart pounding in fear. The doctor said that a few more minutes could have cost her life. That night, he sat outside her hospital room, holding her hand, praying she would wake. When she finally opened her eyes and whispered, "James," that was the first time he realized there was someone more precious than his own life. Then came the storms. The company fell into chaos, betrayal struck from within. He lost his position, his name, everything. When everyone turned away, only Diep came to him, bringing a loaf of bread, a glass of water, and a quiet embrace. "You can earn back money," she told him softly. "But never lose faith. I still believe in you." Those words saved him. He remembered the nights when Diep fell ill, her body frail and trembling. He abandoned all his business, staying by her side day and night, cooking porridge, changing dressings. She had smiled weakly, whispering, "When I get better, I'll plant a whole orchard for you." He could only hold her hand, too choked to answer. Then there was little Nee, the orphaned girl left at the farm gate on a stormy night. Without hesitation, Diep gathered the child into her arms. "She needs a family," she said softly. "And maybe, we need something to love even more." From that night on, they became a small family. Poor, yes. Struggling, yes. But every laugh, every meal they shared by the grapefruit trees filled James with a peace he'd never known. A peace no city, no wealth could ever offer. He remembered those sleepless nights, Diep cradling Nee in her arms while he stayed up, scribbling plans for a fresh start. And every time, he'd whisper to himself, "I have to keep trying, not just to succeed, but to protect them, the people I love most." Now, standing amidst the vast wilderness, those memories glowed as vividly as if they had just happened. James clenched the photo in his hand, his voice trembling. "Diep, you are the most beautiful part of my life. Even if the world turns its back on me, I'll still choose you." And our little family, where Nee's laughter echoes, and your gentle smile feels like home. The campfire crackled softly beside him. The night sky bloomed with stars, so quiet he could hear his own heartbeat. And in that moment, James was no longer a CEO or an heir. Just a man, remembering his home. And silently swearing to protect it, no matter the cost. The fire burned low, leaving only glowing embers reflected in James's determined eyes. After all the memories and the turmoil in his heart, he finally found his answer. Tomorrow, he would return. No more running, no more silence, it was time to face everything. Because only by standing tall could he truly protect the woman he loves. Leave a comment to cheer for James and Diep. What do you think will happen when James returns to the city? Will he be able to reclaim his company and protect Diep and little Nee from the shadows waiting ahead? Stay tuned for the next episode, The Confrontation in the Dark, where James finally faces his powerful father, and a long-buried secret slowly comes to light.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến với mọi người video tiếp theo về câu chuyện của bài ca, mình xin lỗi, của Diệp và Jack nha mọi người. Diệp và James nha mọi người. Bị nhầm tên tại đây luôn. Hiện tại thì mình vừa mới làm xong video, bây giờ thì mình đang tìm một cái tiêu đề mình cũng chưa biết đặt tiêu đề là gì cho nó hay ý nghĩa, và có thể mọi người sẽ lựa chọn tiêu đề đấy để xem nhiều hơn. Hy vọng rằng mọi người sẽ tạm biệt mọi người.